Welcome to Fantasy Football Court. We are four regular guys talking all things fantasy football. Unlike some other shows, we only talk about fantasy football. We make our arguments, we present our cases, and you are the judge. We are all in the same fantasy football league. The people are real, the league is real, and the trash talking is real. Court is now in session. All right, welcome again to Fantasy Football Court. We hope you enjoyed today's show. My name is Charles.
My name's Andrew.
My name is Nick.
My name is Jeremy.
And today we're going to put the New England Patriots on the stand. They can be cross-examined, they can be questioned, and we're going to look at all things New England Patriots on this show. You know, New England Patriots is a team of Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Romp, and they're the Super Bowl winning team. And you would think that the Super Bowl winning team would have a lot of fantasy football players that you would want high in your draft because they won the Super Bowl. But they might not necessarily be the case. Nick, you want to give us a brief overview of the Patriots before we dig into the positions?
They have a lot of talent, and it's just a matter of picking who do you think is going to have a breakout season. There's so much talent on that roster.
If I could take full teams as my starting lineup, I'm so excited about the Patriots that you could just give me the entire Patriots and I could win the Super Bowl this year with them.
What? Andy, you got any thoughts on the Patriots?
I'm scared of the backfield when it comes to fantasy football just because there's so many different options. And I guess if there's one player that would be nice to have, it would be Tom Brady. But
I agree.
He'd be the most consistent when it comes to points. But we're about to start breaking down each of those positions.
Yeah, we're going to look at all the positions, and we might as well go ahead and get started. And the number one position on any team is the quarterback. And Nick, do you have anything on the quarterback you'd like to talk about? We'll all break it down and talk about it before we move on to the next one. But is there any first thoughts that you have on Tom Brady?
Yeah, I really think this is the year that his age catches up with him.
He is 40 years old this year.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the year. I think that's the reason Bill Belichick surrounded him with so much more talent this year than he has before. Is because he thinks his age might catch up with him this year. And coming out with my position rankings last year, if anybody caught that, I had him at my number 5 quarterback, which is a lot lower than anybody else.
Yeah.
Most people have him 1 or 2. That's all.
And you think his age is going to be a factor?
I think this is the year that his age catches up with him.
Well, there's always a time. There's always a point in every NFL player's career where that catches up with him.
Yeah, you didn't think it happened to Peyton Manning 2 years ago, but it happened.
Oh, he really fell off.
And
when they fall quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready to say that he is.
I'm not going to say he's going to fall as hard as Peyton Manning did that year, but I think he takes a step back. I'm not saying that. I think he'll still produce because he still has the talent, but I just don't think he's the number 1 or 2 quarterback like most people have him.
Jeremy, what do you think?
I think age could be a factor, but it's still Tom Brady.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's a known commodity. I've got him at number 3 in my quarterbacks list just simply because this is the most talent that he's ever had at his disposal, top to bottom, in my opinion. In that last 6 years, he's only had 1 year. He's the only quarterback in the league that has only had 1 year in the last 6 years with less than 4,000 yards passing. And he's averaged 32 TDs a year the last 6 years. Just let me have his average over the last 6 years, and I'm happy with my starting quarterback.
If he's able to sustain that, yeah, absolutely. The thing that's interesting about Tom Brady, they have lost key receiver after key receiver, and they'll just pick somebody up off the waiver wires or make a trade and plug somebody in, and Tom Brady's still Tom Brady.
And this year, though, they went out and got some decent. This is probably the best offseason, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, but the best offseason, in my opinion, New England's had in bringing in people for Brady to give him the help that he needs.
Yeah, this is probably the most talent at the receiver spot he's had since he had Wes Welker and Randy Moss.
Well, you count Randy Moss on the end of his career.
Yeah,
I would argue right now that Brandon Cooks at this young age is better than an old-aged Randy Moss.
It could be.
Yeah. Andy, do you have any thoughts on Tom Brady?
Yeah, y'all talk about his age, but he this past March he told the Patriots owner that he's planning on playing 6 or 7 more years. So in his mind, he's still after
$30 million a year. I'd play 6 or 7 more years.
But I mean, he feels like his body's in a place where he still can play. He threw more touchdowns last year than he has in the last 5 years.
And that's missing.
And,
And that's missing what, 3 or 4
Four
games?
games.
Yeah, he threw 37 touchdowns this past year. I have him at number 4 on my quarterback list, but he's one that it wouldn't bother me to have him on my team this year.
Is he somebody that you would go after early? Do you think he's that type of production player that you would risk maybe a first or second round pick on? No, I don't think so.
Never overdraft a quarterback.
Yeah.
There's not enough separation between traditionally, between
Right.
the number 1 quarterback and the number 10 quarterback that I can get around 7 or 8, where there is more separation between a first and second round
Definitely.
running back, a wide receiver.
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
8,
But
9.
but when you're going for a quarterback, though, you wouldn't mind having him as one of your first picks. I mean, I think
the
he's
cards
in.
fell
I
right
think
now.
you would have to put him no matter where you have him ranked. I don't think there's a separation. Y'all all talked about maybe you had him 3rd, 4th, or whatever. I don't think there's a big difference between 1 and 4.
No.
Do y'all see a quarterback that is in the next level above him?
No.
Do any of y'all have a quarterback? No.
No.
So
If we get around 5 and 6 and quarterbacks are starting to drop off, I might consider it, in those top 4.
yeah. All right. That's pretty much covering Tom Brady. He's solid. He's been solid for years. I don't think he's had many injury problems like a lot of people have, a lot of NFL players. He's been a producer. I mean, he's somebody you want on your team. And had he been available for every game last year, he would have went a lot higher in our draft than he did last year. But when you get a player having to sit so many games, like we've got some this year, that are having to sit out 3 or 4 games already, and you know that going in, so that's obviously going to affect their draft position. Even though they may be an elite player, you already know you lost them for 3 or 4 weeks, and
Still threw 37
and
touchdowns.
still
Yeah.
threw 37
Imagine
touchdowns.
if he hadn't had them 4 games. I mean, he could hit 50.
Could have. That's possible. I mean, just Tom Brady's just one of those guys that seem to be consistent week in and week out. All right, next we'll go to the running backs, and I'll start with Jeremy first on this. You have any thoughts on their running backs?
As crazy as you're going to think I am,
And we do.
I think this is probably one of the better low risk, high reward opportunities here out there. Here's why. Since 2012 rushing yards. Let's go ahead and say it. The New England Patriots has never had what I would call a top tier running back. They've always just done whatever. So here's the deal. 2012, they had 1,764 yards rushing, 25 touchdowns. 2013, 2,065 yards, 19 touchdowns. 14, 1,727 yards, 13 touchdowns. 15, 1,404 yards, 14 touchdowns. 16, 1,800 yards, 1,800 yards, 14 touchdowns. Here's the deal.
So they're getting
somebody
touchdowns.
is getting
Yeah.
yards and touchdowns no matter who they plug in.
But traditionally, they've spread it out.
To a certain degree, but they've always had one running back that's had a little more than ever. Here's how I see this year's thing playing out. Mike Gillislee will be their bell cow, first and second downs primarily. James White will be their third down back, who's going to be their more pass receiving guy. I think those two between those two, they'll get 75% of the touches. Those two will. They're going to make some cuts. I'm hearing through the rumor mills that one of the running backs that they have on the roster now will be cut before the season starts.
There's 7 of them.
Well, okay, let me
Seven.
rephrase that. One of the ones that people think will be in the mix because of confidentiality stuff. I don't want to just go out here and start blurting stuff that people's told me, oh, you can't tell anybody. But it's up to you to do the math and figure out the one that you think people think will get playing time that I didn't mention here that is probably going to be out of the equation.
Of course,
So,
it's a given. Everyone should know that LeGarrette Blount is not with the team anymore.
That's
right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about is the players that are left. So you're high on Mike Gillislee, you think?
I think you can get Gillislee or James White in rounds 8 or 9 and have a very viable, maybe even a little higher than that, maybe even at 7, and have a guy that could turn into a solid RB2 for you for the year.
Well, it seems like traditionally Bill Belichick, if a player is producing, he's obviously going to keep feeding him the ball. But the moment he struggles, Bill Belichick's not afraid to go to somebody else.
No.
I will tell you, if Gillislee is available at round 7 or 8, go ahead and just put him in my lineup. Put him on my team.
I don't see him making it that far.
His ADP currently for running backs is 28th. He's the 28th running back going.
Right. So that puts him in round 6, 7?
Around there, yeah. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him there. Nick, do you have any comments on the running back?
To me, I think that it's hard to judge because I think they're going to be situational. I think you're going to have Mike Gillisley in between the 20s, your main running back. I think when they get down the goal line, though, I think they're going to have a little bit of a Rex Burkhead. He's more of a power runner, kind of like LeGarrette Blount was last year. LeGarrette Blount had 18 touchdowns last year. That was the most rushing touchdowns out of any running back. So I think they're going to be kind of situational. They're going to have James White for receiving and third down running back, and then you're going to have Gillisley between the 20s. And when you get down to the red zone, I think you're going to have a lot of Rex Burkhead. I think it's just going to be situational, like kind of how the defenses are nowadays. You'll have pass rushers that's only coming in on pass rushing downs. You'll have run stoppers that's there on the goal line. And you'll have nickelbacks that's there when they need 5 DBs. I think it's going to be situational.
A lot of teams seem to be going to that specialized moment, where they're at on the field or what's going on. They'll plug this player in, they'll plug that player in. We'll get to these other running backs, but there's a few running backs in the league that, no matter where they're at on the field, they're getting the ball because they're the main running back for that team. But so many NFL teams seem to be going to this, specialized, on the goal line, we're going to go here, or first and third, we're going to go here, but when it's first and 10 or second and 9 or something, they're going to go with a different running back. But that's a big guy out of Nebraska, and he seems like he could be the LeGarrette Blount type if given the opportunity. Absolutely.
It's going to be hard to. Mike Gillisley was one of the top running backs up there, but he's not getting the touchdown production, and Rex Burkhead is. That's going to hurt a lot.
But we definitely don't see a big time producer in that backfield. Somebody that we absolutely want to have early in the draft. I don't see anybody. Andy, you got any comments on the running back?
I'm big on Mike Gillisley also, but Deion Lewis is one that none of us have really mentioned a whole lot, but
there's a reason.
There's a reson behind it. He's had hamstring problems, and with the addition of Gillisley and Burkhead, I think he's going to be. I was reading where he's going to be doing like maybe some punt returns and stuff, but he's not really going to be a factor this year. I don't think it's going to be those 2 other guys. So.
Well, as for me, I'm probably going to stay away from the New England backfield in my entire draft unless Gillisley is available 7th, 8th round. If he's there in the 9th round, you're just hoping that he makes it to you, that the guy ahead of you don't pick him because you need to take a Gillisley that late. But any earlier than that, I don't think I would mess with anybody in the New England backfield.
All right. Don't be surprised if he comes out doing good that he might get more carries.
He could. Gillisley could be a big time.
He has the potential with that offense
I
to
think
be more than what we've seen in the past from Patriots running backs.
I think Gillisley is going to be good for 1,000 yards and 6-7 touchdowns this year.
Wow,
and that's big for the Patriots.
That's huge.
But he has that potential with that offense.
He does. He absolutely does.
And White, I think, could be like a Gio Bernard type numbers, which will make you beat your head against the wall because some games he'll have 3 catches and 40 yards. The next game he'll have 8 catches and a touchdown and be a viable number. But I think White's going to fit into that Gio Bernard type.
Last year, Gillisley had 0 receiving touchdowns. That's going to change this year. Yeah. With that offense, I believe. Don't y'all?
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I do. I think so. All right. Next, we'll move to the wide receivers. Tom Brady's recipients of his passes. And I'm going to start with Nick on this one. Nick, you have any commentary on the wide receivers?
Brandon Cook is clearly going to be their number 1 wide receiver. We all know this, but how high do you take him with a loaded wide receiver with Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan, Malcolm Mitchell, and then you got tight end, you got Gronk and Dwayne Allen. The wide receivers, just the receiving options are just so many. It's still, how many catches and targets will Brandon Cooks get? It's going to be hard to judge, but he's still probably going to be top wide receiver. Right now, I have him in my wide receiver rankings, and I have him pretty high considering.
The ADP for Brandon Cooks right now is 12. He's a 12th receiver based on the average draft position.
Which I have him a little bit lower than that. I have him at 18, which that's just the factor of so many receiving options, and it's just going to be hard to tell how many targets he's going to get and so much of that offense. Biggest thing, it's like, Gronk, usually the receiver type gets the 90% of the most of the targets, but is Brandon Cooks going to take over that number 1 option?
Well, Brandon Cooks is a legitimate wide receiver. He is an elite NFL wide receiver with a Patriots offense with Tom Brady throwing the ball, he has a potential to be a top-tier wide receiver.
He does.
The potential's there,
Yes.
and there's a lot of percentage there of him being a high-tier wide receiver.
And with Tom Brady, like he said, this is probably the most talented receivers he's had in
Yeah.
a while.
Well, and you got to figure with Gronkowski, is that going to open up more opportunities for Brandon Cooks?
Yeah.
Because what you see a lot of times, you'll see a team with an elite level wide receiver, but they shut him down. They
Yeah.
just they put their best corner on him, they shut him down, and they can't go anywhere else. Well, with Gronkowski, you can't just shut down one person.
No, you can't.
So you got to watch Gronkowski. You got to watch Brandon Cooks, and that's hard to do, and that may
Yeah,
open up
and-
some throwing
and
avenues
with,
for him.
you know,
With having this many good wide receivers, it keeps the safeties honest.
It does.
The safeties are going to have to watch Gronkowski. I think when you look at Brandon Cooks, he is the best downfield target that Brady has had since Randy Moss.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see. We'll see game 1 or 2 this year if Brady can throw the ball 60 yards like he used to, because I think Cooks gives you the opportunity to stretch the field.
He does.
Because that's you look at Breeze. With Breeze last year, Cooks had several. I didn't go
He
back
did.
and look, but he had
Yeah.
several touchdowns that were longer than 30 and 40 yards.
Hey,
I think. Go ahead.
last year Cooks finished 6th of all wide receivers.
yeah.
And,
Well,
and he's going to a similar type. It's not the same offense, but it's an offense that throws like New Orleans does. So I think he's got the potential to be.
I've got Cooks in my top 10. He's right in that number 10 bubble, 9, 10, 11. That's where I have Cooks. But I think the person that benefits the most from Brandon Cooks being on the team is Julian Edelman. I know you're going to laugh at this, but I've got Julian Edelman right at that number 20 mark in wide receivers for me. I think Edelman, he slides into that Wes Welker role, and being in a PPR league, I think Edelman is going to become a possession receiver, but we also know Edelman's got speed, and so he's going to take 3 or 4 of those possessions that would be a 10, 12, 14-yard passes and turn them into 25, 30-yard passes.
Yeah.
I think Cooks, Edelman, Amendola, I would say the only reason you should have Danny Amendola on your roster is if you're stashing him just in case Edelman or Cooks gets hurt.
Yeah, but he's more injury prone out of all of them.
Right,
And that's
absolutely.
gonna
But
be a huge risk with that. That's why you'd almost say Chris Hogan over Amendola.
I'm not unless I just hear something or get some sort of epiphany between now and the draft. Amendola, Chris Hogan, Malcolm Mitchell, none of them will be on my roster come day one.
Right. Danny Amendola is not even being drafted in drafts. He doesn't even have an ADP. And who is it? Julian Edelman is the 22nd best receiver, ADP right now for wide receivers. So, it's the New England Patriots are a weird type of team. You know, like I said earlier, they won the Super Bowl. So you automatically think, I want their quarterback, I want their running back, I want their wide receiver, I want their tight end, I want them all high. That ain't necessarily the case. They've got a lot of talent where they're going to be spreading the ball. And I kind of agree with you on the Julian Edelman thing. I mean, you got Brandon Cooks, you've got Gronk, you've got these players that have to be covered, and you can't cover them all at the same time all the time. So there's going to be some big play opportunities there.
They're going to have a safety on the tight end in Gronk. They're going to have their number 1 corner on Brandon Cooks. And trust me,
Yeah.
they're going to
pickup.
move Edelman over so that in some cases there's going to be a linebacker on Julian Edelman, which is going to be fun to watch because there is not a linebacker in the league that I don't think Edelman can take.
And the thing with Tom Brady, if you're open, he can get you the ball. I've seen receivers in the NFL be wide open and the quarterback miss the throw. Tom Brady's not one of those quarterbacks. You got any comment on the?
I think y'all covered it pretty well. Last year, Edelman had 1,100 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. Over under on the touchdowns?
Oh, he'll go over.
He'll go over
He'll
that.
go over that year. 1,100 receiving yards is big. I mean,
I think his reception total numbers will be down. Last year he had 98 receptions. I don't quite see him get right at that 100 mark this year.
Right.
Probably not. But I think his touchdowns.
But he's going to make up for it in touchdowns.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're done with the wide receivers, y'all think?
Yes.
We're good on that? All right, let's go to the tight ends, and we all know who this tight end is. Probably been the most consistent tight end in NFL for probably, what, 4 years?
Consistently injured.
Well, he's injured. He is injured. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've owned him in your league and, come game day, but right before kickoff, you've got to check the injury report because you don't know if this guy's going to play. He is week in and week out, and I know he's broke your heart or he's made you happy, but you don't ever know. If he can stay on the field, I still think he could be a a first-round draft choice this year. But again, I would worry about his injuries.
Yeah.
And two, now he's got more people they're going to spread the ball out to. But I don't think that's necessarily going to hurt him. But you just never know week in and week out what you're going to get with Gronkowski. Got any comment on him?
Really, I mean, Gronkowski's your number one tight end, but I mean, if you're going to draft him, I think I don't see taking him first or second round. That's got to be third, fourth round later. And if you do take him, I'd probably handcuff him with Dwayne Allen. That's just my opinion because you just don't never know, and they throw the tight end a lot.
Yeah, they're tight end.
Even Dwayne Allen could, come through you with Gronk on the team too. So, I mean, it'd be a good idea to, I think, handcuff him.
I don't know about handcuffing him to Dwayne Allen because last year I had Martellus Bennett when he was gone, and Martellus Bennett was probably the number 10th or 11th tight end
number 10.
when Gronk wasn't there. You
can't
know,
replace Gronk. That's the problem.
that's the deal. So my thing is, Gronk's absolutely. We cannot argue that he's still not the number one tight end.
He is
there,
but I think
but
you
the
said
margin
last
that
week,
he has, the margin of separation between him and the 2, 3, 4 guys is not so much that if I can get another tight end in round 6 and that's in that top 5 tight end numbers, and I have to draft Gronk at round 3 or 4 to get him, I'm passing on Gronk, letting somebody else deal with that headache, and drafting me a better wide receiver, or probably more than likely at round 4, I'm getting me another running back, round 4 and 5, and going to shore that up and take Olsen or somebody else in that rounds 5, 6, 7.
Would you say that when you tier these players, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, the running backs, whatever, is anybody else in Gronkowski's level? Gronkowski's level 1. Is there anybody else you could put in his same level? Any other tight end? Now you say there might not be much of a separation. I agree with that, but is there anybody else that fits into that Gronkowski level? There's level 1, Gronkowski. There's level 2. Does anybody else fit in that level 1?
I think you've got to make a case that Greg Olsen and Travis Kelce ease up, get real close this year.
But would you put them in the number 1?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But mid-season,
Yeah.
I think that we could be saying, oh, because look, man, and I know we got to cover the Panthers later. I'm really high on Greg Olsen because now with the running back and Christian McCaffrey there and some of the other moves they put around Cam, that's going to spread that field even more. And I think that Olsen has a chance
to have a breakout year,
to have his best year possible. And
possible.
I could say by week 6 that Gronk may be in the rankings at 4 and 5, and Kelce and Olsen may be both ahead of him.
Yeah, I actually think that I agree 100% with that. I was thinking the same thing because with all them weapons the Panthers had, they improved their offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just going to open up so much for Greg Olsen, who's been basically their number 1 target the last 3 years. And Kelsey's now, clear cut number 1. Tyreek Hill's the only other really option you have on that offense right now.
Any comments on Gronk?
He's just scared to death. If he's somebody, he is the top tight end, and he says he's 100% healthy. He said that before.
He says that every week.
Third back surgery he's had.
Wow.
This past year that took him out. So if you had him last year, you had to have been disappointed. 540 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns.
That's all he had?
Is that what y'all have on yours thing?
Let me look.
540 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns.
He wound up the 20th best tight end in football last year. I didn't realize that. So he did fall. I know that includes his missed days.
He was drafted in round 1.
Round 1.
And
I turned around and drafted Jimmy Graham in round 13.
Right.
And I came out a million times better.
He did.
And was able to add greater high-tier talent. That's what I'm saying with Gronk.
Right.
I'm not going to take Gronk unless he just spirals to a point that I have no choice but to take him.
Well, and if you watching, last year, he went high in your league. If you didn't take him, somebody else took him.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I promise you.
And they'll make that mistake again this year.
Right.
There's going to be some moron in your league that is willing to draft Gronkowski in rounds 1 or 2.
Right.
You won't look when you're in your draft meeting and you're online or whatever. You're going to talk Gronkowski up because somebody will be sucker enough to take him and leave you somebody good, and you're not going to lose anything.
If he remains healthy, though, he's not going to have years like he had in the past because of that wide receiver core.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact.
Look, the main reason most people still have him at number 1 is because they're still patronizing history.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
I think if you look at reality is, you can't go against him because of history. But this year, I really don't see him being the number 1 running back.
Well, the biggest thing of him, everybody having number 1 is if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, should we just cut?
That's mine. That's my weekly hour. Can you cut all that? I hate that.
I'm not with you.
Or we'll just leave it in there. Hey, this is a live show. Again, I said last week, we don't have all the fancy equipment. We don't have all the ability to do the replays. We even got
But
a
we do
flyer.
have cell phones.
Yeah,
We do have some technology. Yes, we do have some technology. We're not Amish. We have a little bit of technology. But obviously, we don't have a lot of things that these bigger shows have. But what we do have is 4 guys that really enjoy fantasy football, and we enjoy talking about it, and we hope you get something out of this. Like we're talking now, I think we all agree that you hope somebody else in your league takes Gronkowski high because you can get almost as good as tight end a lot later that's going to produce Gronk numbers that he's going to get this year.
Last year I got Kelsey. I looked up, got Kelsey in the 7th round. He was the number 1 tight end. It done great for me.
See, so if you drafted Gronkowski high last year and somebody else got Kelsey, they wound up with better numbers and got him a lot lower.
That's right. I've got a stat check myself. I said Brady had 37. He had 28 touchdowns last year. Only 2 interceptions.
Wow.
He's projected for 37 this year. I got it mixed up on my stat sheet there, but 28 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. That was back on Brady. I had to stat check myself. So.
Well, this is our tech guy, so he may not always have the right information, but he'll try to correct himself whenever he finds it.
But
where did you get 37 touchdowns?
That's what he's projected for this year.
Oh,
I just had it in the wrong place.
All right.
But this IT guy over here went to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row.
Ouch. I've won it one time.
5 years ago.
Hey, but I won it. I won our Super Bowl. And these guys aren't saying anything for an obvious reason.
Hey, look, I'm the only one sitting at the table that has had my entry fees covered by winning every single year we play.
I've been in the playoffs every year.
I've won my money.
Yeah. I've been playing.
Well, last year you didn't make the playoffs, did you?
Yeah.
The first
round.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
No,
I lost.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
No, you didn't.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't his wife knock him out last year?
No, Andy did.
I did.
All right.
All right.
Let's get back to business here. Order in the court. All right.
Before we move on to tight ends, Allen, I mean, I don't think he's going to be in much of anything if he does come in. If Gronk goes out, and one of the reasons Brady trusts Gronk when he's playing, and I mean, do you think
if Gronk goes out, Amendola becomes a little more viable in my opinion?
I don't know. I might go back on that because another thing I mean, Dwayne Allen's another one that he stayed hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's had trouble staying healthy.
And he wound up the 22nd best tight end last year, right behind
Gronk.
Gronk was 20.
He's never lived up to the potential he had in Indianapolis. He never lived up to that potential.
But the only way Dwayne Allen's going to produce is if Gronk stays out.
Yeah,
I mean, we know he's out. Then I mean, let's just say before your draft, let's say Gronkowski has a season-ending injury, God forbid, but he has a season-ending injury. Do you take Dwayne Allen?
I don't draft him still.
You still
I'm
don't
not picking him
draft
up on the wire, but I'm not going to draft
So
him.
you don't even draft him. I'm going to draft him.
He's somebody
late. 15th, 16th
maybe.
round, I may take a shot on him.
If he's there, but if not, I'm waiting on waivers.
I think,
Maybe, maybe
think,
17th round.
I think there's more. I think the tight end position right now is deeper than it's ever been in the league.
Yeah, but you don't
And
have.
Gronk's changed that.
But you don't have a guy playing in your
wait,
league.
Yeah.
But you don't probably have a guy playing in your league like ours that'll draft 5 tight ends.
No, probably not.
No.
That did happen. Yes, that did happen. He sat beside me and drafted 5 tight ends when you can only play one. But anyway, it's his team. He can draft whoever he wants.
But there's before I picked up Dwayne Allen late in the draft, there's some rookie tight ends that come out this year.
Yeah.
That I would take. Njoku, the tight end from Notre Dame, he's with Cleveland right now.
He's from Miami.
They're in Miami, not Notre Dame. I'm sorry, Miami. There's a few other guys that'll still be available. I think O.J. Howard may be a little higher, Evan Ingram, O.J. Howard, those guys. The kid that played at South Alabama. I can't remember his name, but his name right off the top of my head. But I would pick those guys up before I did.
Even Dwayne Allen.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd probably go Dwayne Allen over Ingram and Everett. I'd probably draft O.J. Howard and Njoku before him, though.
All right. Anybody else want to cover anything New England? I think we've got
the kicker. Defense, special teams.
Well, that's true.
That's a pretty big point.
Y'all want to cover that?
That's a pretty big point thing. Won't take long. But this year in the offseason, we always focus with the Patriots on the Brandon Cooks signing. But here's what they did on defense in the offseason. They signed Stephon Gilmore at cornerback.
And David Harris.
That's a big pickup. They got David Harris as well. They re-signed Malcolm Butler. And they only re-signed him. And if you watched last week, you'll know I'm real big on players in the last year of their deals. Well, they signed Malcolm Butler to a one-year deal. So he has one more year this year to show out, and he's going to get paid if he has a good year. If he has a good year, we're talking a contract, 4 years, $80+ million that he'll probably get. They re-signed Dante Hightower. They got better on the defensive line and in the secondary, and they have two solid return men in Julian Edelman and Cyrus Jones. I've got them.
Do you have them pretty high on your rankings?
I've got them as probably the number 4, 5, 6 defense in the.
I have them number 4
I got
defense.
them at 7.
Wow.
I have them right between the big 3: Houston, Kansas City, and Denver.
0 touchdowns last year from the defense. In our league, the defense can make it or break it for you. You can go backwards and forward. How many defensive touchdowns y'all think this year from them? Just a guess.
That's hard to guess. That's a hard thing to guess.
I think when you factor in special teams touchdowns, because that's as a defensive touchdown, I think they're probably good for 3 to 4 total.
Yeah, which you can attest for the defenses last year. Bad defenses.
Why are you looking at me?
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
All right. So I do think, after listening to what you said, I do think they're going to upgrade their defense. And I think, and the thing also with defense is, in fantasy football, when you have a player and you're going against the New England Patriots defense, and you've got a quarterback or a running back or a wide receiver, and they've got them good corners and they've got those good safeties and they got the good defensive line, that affects your players.
Right.
So not only do you need to know your defense for your purposes, but what team are you playing against? I think Seattle and Denver, and when your players playing against those teams. But let me just throw this out here. This is totally kind of a different subject, but you got a stud player. You drafted him in the 1st or 2nd round. Let's say he goes against the number 1 defense. Do you start that guy, or do you look at your matchup and go, well, the guy I got in the 4th round has a better matchup, so I'm going to go with him? I'm on the average. I'm not talking about specifics.
I would say for me, I've just pretty well made a decision to trust my brain and not my gut.
Yeah.
Because my gut a lot of times has screwed me out of a lot of points. And if I had enough faith to pick somebody in the 1st round,
I agree.
Unless they've given me reason,
right?
Like Todd Gurley in week 7 or 8,
that's reason to bench him.
At that point,
right?
Then I'm moving somewhere else due to matchups,
right?
But first 6 weeks of the year, my first
doesn't
round
matter who they play, they're in the lineup. I agree.
I don't care if he's playing the old steel curtain and he's a running back.
You're starting him. That's right. You drafted him for a reason.
You draft your first round guys. I mean, he's got to be your stud, and he's got to be in your lineup
until he proves you wrong. Todd Gurley,
and
who he drafted last year.
DeAndre Hopkins.
I rode him way too long.
Yeah, and you do that. Well, we don't want to get off on that. Well, that's another show, but. We're going to try to wrap this up. I guess we need to.
Are we going to hit kickers?
We're about to say we're going to.
Just on the depth chart, where do you have the kicker, Goskowski?
2.
I don't ever evaluate
I don't
kickers.
Either. I agree with you.
I will tell you, kicking position is the position that I spend the least amount of time on.
You're just gambling.
I'm pretty well with my kicker. I look to see which offense has the best matchup or let me rephrase that. I try to find offenses that are playing defenses that are in that 12 to 20 rank, because they're good enough to stop them before they get a touchdown in a lot of cases, but they're not good enough to keep them off their side of the 50. So I just see what the best matchup is. I think if you go back and look last year, I probably played 6 or 7 different kickers.
I did too. What I look for is dome kickers. I'll trade kickers out. I'll drop a first round, a top rated kicker for a kicker kicking in a dome, just because I know there's no rain, no wind, no elements.
Now,
to me, kickers don't. I don't hang on to a kicker.
If you draft Justin Tucker of the Ravens, just plug him in your lineup and don't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, halftime the Ravens would just get to a certain point and they'd just kick a field goal.
They just quit.
Yeah, they just quit kicking
because
they knew it was automatic.
3 handoffs up the middle.
They get to about the 45 yard line and he gets, 50-yard field goal. I mean, he had 20-something points a game last year.
As far as points, though, for a kicker, I mean, Stephen Gostkowski's, he's 9 for 9 in 20 to 29 range. He was 7 for 9, 30 to 39, and 9 for 10 for 40 to 49.
Wow.
I mean, that adds up on fantasy points.
He's
consistent.
I mean, you got Tucker and Gostowski, and they were the top kickers, and then the rest, I think the rest of them you can just whatever.
Now, there is a kicker that's going to come out in a few years, Eddie Pinero for Florida. Yeah. If I ever get an opportunity to draft him, he can hit from 70 yards, man. I mean, he can flat out kick.
But he's not real smart because he decommitted from Bama. So I would question his mental state at that point.
But a kicker can really, in our league, the further out you are, the more points you get. So these long range booming kickers can obviously help.
Back in the day, Sebastian Janikowski fit that same.
I think he still does. He's still a boomer, but he's not as good as he used to be.
Obviously.
He's 100 years old.
He also hit 2 from 50 plus.
And that's what, in our league, 6 points, 5 points?
I believe it's 5 points. That's a lot. I mean, that's almost a touchdown.
Well, I think, was it Justin Tucker that last year hit like 2 or 3 50 yards in one game?
Yeah. And then, that'll add up. So, but I'm with Jeremy. I don't, you'll see these guys drafting defenses and kickers early. I can see a defense a little bit, but man, the kicker's the last person I take. Round 17, I'm going to generally get me a kicker or right around that area because I don't really care, about who I get. All right, does anybody else got anything on New England? I think we're pretty much in consensus agreement. It's a spread offense. We're seeing players all over the place that I really don't want. If I can draft anybody off the New England Patriots that I would like to have, it'd be Tom Brady. That's really about all I would like to have.
So I would take Brady.
I mean, I'm talking about early. I'm talking about the first 3 rounds. Cooks, I don't know. Would you draft Cooks in 3 rounds? In
round 3, Cooks. If I've got Cooks as a top 15 wide receiver, then he's going in the first 3 rounds. And then Edelman in top 20, he's going to be in that 4 or 5 category. If not mentioned at the end of round 3, according to where your draft position is. So
in a 12-team PPR, I don't see Cooks going out of the 3rd or 4th round.
I think Cooks is probably going to be looked at the end of the 2nd.
I tell you, in preseason, a lot of the stuff we're talking now, we're at the 1st of July. Preseason, you'll be able to see some things too. Guys will move up, guys will move down.
I don't see them playing Brady enough in the preseason for us to get a feel on him and Cooks too much. So I think that we're just going to have to, with Cooks and Brady and their chemistry, I think we're just going to have to trust the fact that no matter who you put with Brady, Brady's been able to figure them out.
Yeah, Cooks is right now slated to go in the beginning of the 3rd round. Me personally, I'd probably 4th or 5th. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a little bit later.
Well, I'll take Brandon Cooks this year from you guys, and then at the end of the year, y'all can either thank me or.
Last question: if Brady goes down, are they done?
Garoppolo proved last year that he's not that bad.
I don't think they're done. I don't think they're a Super Bowl winning team again.
If he does go down, though,
does that hurt everybody else?
It kills everybody else.
Everybody.
I'm looking horrible for drafting Cooks in round 3.
Exactly. All right, let's wrap this up. We went quite lengthy on this first team, and we're going to cover all the teams. So be on the lookout for our other videos. Look us up on social media. We're on Facebook
at FF Court on all the social media platforms.
Okay.
Yes.
What else?
Twitter, Instagram,
and send us your questions if you have any questions or you even have any comments.
Or you hate us.
Yeah.
Just tell us.
Yeah. If we're terrible, we understand. You just send us what you think, and if we choose to, we might read your question or your comment on the air.
If you think you can do a better job, do it and send it to us, and we'll start battling back and forth, picking each other apart. It's
There you go.
There you go. All right. Everybody good on the New England Patriots? Court is adjourned.